Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Precision Rifle Media. This week we're going to get into SHOT Show. We're going to talk about some of the cool stuff coming out there. There's going to be uh, probably four more shows that were recorded live at SHOT Show coming up. I believe that's the number. Marcus was there for us as he has been in the past. Marcus is also the guest of the show today. Um, Marcus Hom, if you guys have listened, you know who he is. He's written articles and done interviews, and he's gone to SHOT Show I think the last like probably 5 years or something for us. So with that, Marcus, we're gonna let you kind of introduce yourself here just a little bit, who you are and what you do, and then we'll get into the SHOT Show stuff.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me back on, Kirk. Marcus Hom, my business is Only Shooters. I put together precision rifle packages for folks looking to get into long range shooting, do some training and stuff like that as well. But I'd say I'm one of the OG fans for Precision Rifle Podcast, which became Precision Rifle Media. I want to say Kirk and I have probably been friends since 2016 or sometime back in then. And yeah, we've been kind of working together. I think I have a few other interviews on some old shows talking about different actions that we've worked with in SHOT Show coverage and stuff like that. And so, looking forward to talking about SHOT Show today.
Yeah, and Marcus's business, only shooters, isn't to be confused with my side business, Shooters Only,
That's
which is
right.
like,
The dating side of things.
I'm just kidding. That's not really a thing. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
it could be, I don't know.
yeah.
Um, But Marcus, yeah, you've been helping us out for years. I don't know, I don't even know how we became friends. Really, you just like I think you just emailed me enough through the page website that we just started talking, and then that was that.
Yeah, I think I was getting spooled up to do the 2015 Sniper Adventure Challenge. And so, leading into that, doing that with my brother-in-law, um, I was just, of course, really interested in precision rifle shooting and trying to learn as much as we could. And you remember back at that time, it was like a blossoming field of
Mhm.
knowledge. Basically, everyone was starting to share stuff on the civilian side, and it wasn't all, hey, if you're not military, you don't need to know this kind of thing. So a lot of that knowledge was coming out.
Right.
And yeah, I think we just had some side discussions and stuff like that. Maybe we were talking about lapse rate and temperature powder, temperature stability in powders and things like that. And
Yeah, back when
it,
people thought every 1,000 feet of elevation you climbed, your zero would shift an inch.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then I think maybe our first interview we did must have been after that 2015 Sniper Adventure Challenge. I think like you, me, Tom Fuller, and a couple other guys were on that.
Yeah, Fred maybe was Fred doing
Yeah,
it then?
no, Fred would have RO'd that one,
Yeah,
and then he came out and started killing him.
yeah, right, right. He
Yeah,
came, he
yeah.
started doing good. Uh, well, cool. Yeah, so you've been the SHOT Show guy for quite a while. The videos on the YouTube page that are up there, those are all from you. And I guess I'm gonna let you just kind of, man, what'd you see? What'd you see? What are we gonna start talking about first?
Okay, so my emphasis probably this shot show was looking at some of the new actions that are being released. I was surprised at how many companies had new bolt actions out, right? Because we kind of had that the rush or the glut of actions back in the Bighorn origin timeframe, not Zermatt because they were Bighorn back then still. And the Nucleus came out at the same time, and like everyone was doing these sub $1,000 actions, right? And I was like, okay, great, that's the year of the precision rifle actions. Maybe we've moved past that, but it seemed like this year a lot of other people decided that they were going to push out their actions. So I'd say the majority of what you're going to hear about is actions in those other podcasts that I've got from the show directly, those interviews. A little bit of barrel manufacturing, and something that I wish I had gotten to see, but I didn't make myself aware of it until I got home, was a new scope from Burris that looked a little bit interesting.
Hmm. Hopefully they
Um,
don't pull a Nikon, right? Come up with a
and,
scope that's like, I mean, the Nikon Black's a pretty sweet scope, right? And they were like, here it is, guys. And everybody was like, it doesn't cost enough. We don't want it, And then
oh, I thought you were going to say just completely disappear from firearms market altogether, because Nikon had that
yeah,
Nikon Black scope out, and
yeah.
then I think the year or 2 years after that, they're like, no, we don't want to be affiliated with rifles anymore.
Well, I think that was kind of their last hurrah was the Nikon Black, and I don't think it did as well as they wanted. And then
Oh, hurt feelings. They just left the game, huh?
You got out, yeah, which is a bummer.
Okay. Yeah, and you're right. That was a fantastic scope, and the rangefinder was actually really good too. Those black 4Ks, if you can scoop one of those up um, for the price, that they're very, very good.
Right?
Okay, so this year though, let me talk about that scope from Burris really quick. I guess they've got one that has a digital readout in the on the inside,
Like
similar
the
to some
Eliminator,
other. Yep, yep. Well, better than the Eliminator though, as far as the
similar.
readout goes, right? And then who else was it? Gunworks has their Revic, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
it is, so it'd be like a budget version maybe of the Revic, but instead of having like hard clicks, it's just a smooth twist on the turret. And of course, you understand how the turret works. The clicks are actually something that they put in after the fact, right?
Right.
The turret itself is adjusting smoothly, but then you put in those detents so the guy knows where he's at. But anyway, um, you send in your ballistic program and dial that scope, and as you're dialing it, the yardage changes in the readout in the window. And so it'll tell you, hey, you're dialed for 512 yards or whatever as hit what would be the say 3.1, 3.2 mark or whatever for mils, right?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. And then it also has a corresponding wind number. And I'm assuming that wind number is going to be
Something,
pre-programmable. Yep.
yeah,
So if you
something
want it
you
5
put in there.
miles.
So
Exactly.
you're gonna bracket your wind. You're gonna say that you got like a, if you got a 5 to 10, you're gonna say you got a 7 or something.
Yeah,
And
you could program in 7 and then it would tell you where to hold for that 7. So yeah, that, like I said, that was one of those things that I got back and then was, brushing up on what else happened there. And I'm
yeah.
like, oh, I can't believe I completely missed seeing that. And I was at the Burris booth as well.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Like all the years that I've been doing this, I've never been to Shot Show, but from the sounds of it, it's big, and
Yeah,
you'd
it's
be
a
overwhelmed.
monster.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, for sure. And honestly, the best year I had at Shot Show was probably that year that I went with Jeremy. And so I think he and I did an interview with you back in 20, it must have been Shot 2016 or Shot 2017.
I remember doing it.
Yep, yep. And I tell you, that was the best Shot Show that I've had because I had somebody else to kind of keep me on track. And
Oh
and
yeah.
so like we're able to look through and so in the evenings we'd go back and we'd watch videos from what other people had seen and then we'd make our list for the next day of like, hey, we need to go check that out for ourselves or whatever.
Hmm.
But it's almost too much information for one person to digest.
Next
And
year,
then yeah, yep,
next year we'll
exactly.
do it. We'll bring the cameras and we'll do on-site interviews. It'll be good. We'll do it big.
Holding you to it then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely better to have more than one person. The other thing is you have to have a plan, right? Because if you just try and look up a booth and be like, oh, that one's upstairs and this one's down, you're gonna walk 15 miles in a day and waste a bunch of time in transit. So you actually have to have almost like your whole week planned out before you even get on site. So
Do
yeah,
Atlanta,
that's
of course, before Shot Show.
almost actually it helps. Like the same principles help as far as like, okay, if I've walked to this point, I've gone too far. That's a handrail, right? And yeah, whatever. I also use the curvature of the building because that Sands Expo has like a big curved face to it on one side, and so I always use that as my reference point. Like, okay, which way is the curve from here?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Uh, let's see here. As long as we're
Talking about
talking
actions,
about,
quick.
oh,
Talking about
what's
the
that?
actions, quick.
Yeah,
There's a lot of actions. It's funny. There's a lot of people coming out with bolt action rifles too that haven't in the past, right?
that's right. I'd say at
Was it
least three at least. Yeah.
even some of the big ones are finally coming into it? I mean, if finally is the word you want to use, but was it Smith and Wesson came out with one?
So let's see here. Springfield came out with the Waypoint a while back.
Springfield, yeah.
Yep, yep. I don't know what Smith and Wesson's got up for offerings for bolt action. They own Thompson Center though, so I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of kept pushing their bolt actions through Thompson Center. But
I'm not sure. I
maybe
thought I could have swore I saw it was Smith and Wesson, but maybe it was somebody else.
Stag Arms. That was one of the ones that I was going to mention. Stag Arms came out with a complete bolt action rifle.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna have an answer on that Smith and Wesson here in no time, aren't we?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
I gotta check it out. But
Yeah.
um,
Okay, so really quick, as long as we're doing a little background research, let me mention something else cool I saw that was not too precision rifle related, but people might be interested, and that is Holosun. Holosun has been really kind of pushing things forward as far as the red dot, like affordable red dot market, And this year they came out with some stuff that's really pretty cool. They've got a red dot sight that is just an internal battery, not swappable, but you can charge it via solar, and it's supposed to have 15-year lifespan on the battery itself, and it'll hold a charge for multiple days. So as long as it's getting exposed, that's good to go. The other thing is they have some thermal and night vision incorporated, and the way that they're doing it is they're actually projecting it into the red dot. So they have a camera picking up the thermal, and then they're overlaying that in your red dot sight. So yeah, just some fun stuff from Holosun.
I saw that and it looked really cool.
It was neat. And so once again, like, are guys going to use it on their bolt guns? Probably not, unless they're shooting suppressed and shooting at pigs or something. But
Right.
kind of fun.
It
Let's
was
see
Colt.
here.
It's Colt's got the new bolt action rifle there. The
Oh,
CB.
okay. Yeah, no, I didn't get a chance to see that one either. So, like I said, gotta have a good thorough list before I even hit the floor sometimes.
Yeah.
I was really
I didn't
excited to
even
talk. Go
I
ahead.
didn't even know about it until SHOT Show. Like, anymore it seems like SHOT Show isn't necessarily the release date for all this stuff. It's just kind of the day everybody gets to go play with it.
Yeah, and
Like,
that's one of the problems with shot shows. Like, they'll tease you sometimes with stuff, and then it won't even get released.
yeah. But this was the CBX. I think that I don't even know if they released it until SHOT Show was when I started hearing about it. Was the beginning of SHOT Show.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's traditionally how a lot of stuff used to be. Was they'd keep it under wraps, and then boom, shot show
Right.
rolls around it, and yeah, you've got it.
Free
But I
social
mean,
media.
yeah, it's a good push, right? But this year I felt like, what was it? It wasn't the NRA show; it was a different one back in October that a lot of people released stuff, and that was when Hornady talked about their 7 PRC finally. And you remember there had been like the leaked drawings
Hmm.
to Sammy and everything else, so people knew it was coming. But Hornady finally said, "Yep, this is it. We're doing it," and all the info came out.
Right.
Yeah. So let's see here. As far as actions go, though, Aero Precision, I got to handle their new action. That's kind of interesting. The um, Faxon had a new action out, and then also American Rifle Company.
Yep. What about what's that other Falcor? Did they have did they
Yeah, so Falcor has had their action out for a while. I know Tyler Hughes kind of helped them design that.
Yep.
Um, and it has some good features in it. Definitely, they beefed up the bolt stop. That seems to be one place where people are putting a lot of emphasis these days, is making sure that that bolt stop is impinging on the action body and not relying on the little pin that holds the bolt stop in to take that force.
Hmm.
I know you've worked with some Tikas. Like, that's one of the weak links on those
Right.
Tikas, is that little pin that you can break.
That I've broke. Yeah.
Have you actually broken it on your Tikas before? Or?
Yeah, I broke one.
Yeah. Yep. So there you go. I know that I've had to replace one as well. I don't know if I broke it or if it was a customer, but I
Yeah.
remember I've had to replace at least one so far.
Yeah, I thought that they released a new action, but maybe not. So tell us about the actions. I guess
Okay.
teasers,
So
because obviously you know,
yeah,
got some
Aero
other stuff.
Precision, right? So Aero Precision's known for making AR-15s.
Yep.
Um, and their components are what I would say high value components. They're not the highest end, really fancy stuff, but it's kind of the point where you're getting a really good bang for your buck.
Yeah.
And I would say their action fits right into that category as far as you're going to get a good value, and it's very modular. So they looked at the market and decided, you know what, we're going to use the same tenon as the Zermatt Origin. So, for any of our listeners that don't know, the tenon is essentially the part of the barrel that screws into the action. And by having the same threads and length of tenon, we're able to have a prefit barrel that has been chambered for a bighorn origin or Zermatt origin, and you can hard shoulder it up onto the Aero Precision rifle.
I
So
think
I thought that I
that's
thought that was pretty smart.
isn't it the
Yep.
same threads as the Savages too? So you're getting prefits with a barrel nut too, aren't you?
That's right. Yep. Okay. So um, that's the inch and a 16th by 20 threads per inch, right? So
Yeah, that's right.
that's the spec for that Savage. Um, but actually, the other dimension then is the distance from the back to the shoulder, the hard shoulder. And by doing the exact same as the Bighorn, you can buy a pre-fit that's designed for the bighorn.
Right. But I'm just saying, I think the thread pitch is Savage. So I think
Yep.
you can use Savage prefits as well with a barrel nut.
With the barrel nut, absolutely, yeah. So you don't have to have that hard shoulder, right? So I thought that was pretty thoughtful. What else? They're doing interchangeable bolt head, and let's see, Remington 700 footprint. Oh, what is kind of neat about these actions coming out this year are the integrated bolt lugs and integrated scope rails. So it usually in manufacturing it's more expensive to have that rail machined into the action,
Mm-hmm.
and same for the bolt lug. And both Aero Precision and actually all three, American Rifle Company, Aero Precision, and Faxon, all have them integrated. So you're getting a little more value that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like those. I like them when they're just machined in. You don't have to worry about. I mean, you can't change them for the super high cant rails and stuff like that. You have to get mounts or whatever. But I do like them being solid. It's just one less thing to worry about.
That's right. You don't have to witness mark your screws and check everything and whatever. Yeah, and it seems like the industry is pretty much settled on 20 away for your base, you know. And yeah, if you need more, guess what? You can buy a one-piece mount that has cant built into it and get yourself up to 50 anyways.
Right.
After that, you should probably be looking at other products.
Right. The prisms and the
Charlie Terex and yeah.
Were they out there?
I didn't see Mr. Baker this year. I'm sure he was wandering around. Just as a trend at SHOT Show, it seemed like a lot of people have been kind of disenfranchised, maybe since last year when a lot of the big companies just pulled out, didn't show up. So I know people were there that didn't have booths, and actually even Ted Courageous from American Rifle Company, I had to arrange a meeting with him because he didn't have an American Rifle Company booth there. Yeah, yep. So that's just an industry thing, but I think people are not maybe seeing the value of SHOT Show like they did before, and so they're trying to figure out other ways to network. But maybe just having a big $20,000 booth is not the answer.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about before, right? Where they now you can release it on Facebook anytime.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, it used to be there was, I'm sure back in the day. Now, granted, I've never been there, but I'm guessing there would be, the NRA would have coverage there, and Outdoor whatever magazine would have coverage there, and Recoil magazine would have coverage there. Whoever this meant.
Yep. And their writers are still there cruising around. I ran into Ian Harrison and some of the Recoil writers. But yeah,
but that was the only way to get stuff out back then, right?
That's right. Yep. Whereas now social media is definitely pushing a lot more stuff out. And I think even just like long form interviews and things like that are much better than just paying for an article in a magazine at this point. So yeah, that's just kind of an industry thing. But back to this Aero Precision. So they've got the interchangeable bolt heads, the Savage small shank thread pitch, integrated bolt lug, integrated recoil lug, integrated scope rail, and they're selling that for right at or just under $1,000 for just the action. On top of that, they are partnered with Ballistic Advantage. That's kind of like a sister company of theirs. And so they're going to offer a barreled action, and then they also have their own chassis as well. And so they kind of have a tiered structure for their bolt action offerings. So I went from there to
let's switch from those to the because I think you got the actions pretty well covered in those other.
Yeah. We don't have to talk all about the actions because each interview that I've sent over to you will have 30 minutes talking about the different actions and features and stuff.
Yeah, so I think there's kind of a good little teaser for those, but let's talk about like you didn't interview those brass people, did you?
I did get to talk to Snowy Mountain Rifles, and so you will
an actual interview with them on that brass.
That's right.
Oh,
yep. So that'll be posted up as well. There's your teaser for that. You want to kiss on that really quick though?
Yeah, just real quick.
All right. So guess what? They're machining brass, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but normally a piece of brass is kind of like a puck and it's drawn into its shape. Mm-hmm. And what they're doing is they're starting with stock, like bar stock, and actually cutting down into it and machining out this piece of brass, which gives you a high degree of precision. And so case volume and all that stuff is remaining the same. Sounds like the brass that they chose to work with, the specific compounds, have very good characteristics for being fired in a rifle. So the longevity of the brass should be really good. And the thing that I'm most excited about is they can do a bunch of oddball cartridges, and it's not that hard to tool up for it.
Yeah, I
Whereas
think
if somebody like Hornady wanted to do some weird off the wall cartridge, it's going to take time. They're going to have all the mandrels or whatever they're drawing the brass over, and then they're going to have to dedicate a machine to that. Whereas this one machine, they could just put in a different program and get different shapes of brass.
this is gonna be cool for the ELR guys shooting the real big stuff, and because
Yep.
they're always like those guys always seem to be like tuning and tweaking and like changing little things, And I think this is going to be pretty cool for those guys that, for one, have a hard time getting brass sometimes, and then for two, let's say like Robert Vestal, Vestal's Customs or whatever. He builds a lot of those ELR guns. He, I hope I got the name right there. I'm not 100%. I think it's Robert.
Check the show notes for corrections.
Yeah. But he just came out with like the new 375 or whatever it was, but he's using Magnum large rifle primers instead of 50 primers or whatever.
That's right. You were saying those 50 BMG primers are really pricey, right?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I bought them, but I think it was like over $1 a piece the last time I had to buy them.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it was like 50. It was like 50 primers, I think, in a tray, and it was like, I don't remember if it was $80 or something for the 50.
Yeah, and even at gun broker prices, you're only paying maybe 25, 30 cents for a large rifle Magnum, and that's gun broker gouging prices,
Right.
in our current situation. So yeah, if somebody could machine a smaller primer pocket so you don't have to run the 50 BMG primer. But are you getting enough charge? I guess that would be my next question, is like, how many grains of powder do you have to have before you're like, okay, we need to upgrade from that large rifle Magnum?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That what I saw from Vessels, he's saying that he's not getting any trouble with them, but I don't know. So here, I guess I see him for 500 primers for $310. That's way less than the last time I bought them.
It's still not cheap though. It's still not normal primer pricing.
No, 500 for 395. Yeah, so they're almost $1 a piece anyway when you buy them from these guys. The last time I bought them, it was they were at Fleet Farm, the local like farm
Oh
store.
yeah. Yeah, and they probably factor in their hazmat and stuff like that when they're selling you primers there in
Yeah,
person. Yep.
probably.
Yeah, so that's Snowy Mountain Rifles. They're manufacturing that brass.
Okay.
And that should be really fascinating. Um, as long as we're talking about that, I pushed with them the concept of doing all these different oddball cartridges instead of trying to focus on just like the precision or bench rest crowd, because a lot of those bench resters already have brass that they like and that they're using. Generally, I think Lapu is considered a really high end brass manufacturer, and if you can get that brass, most people are doing that. And you and I were saying, for field-based shooting, it would feel really bad to lose a $3 to $5 piece of brass off in the bushes or down the rock pile or whatever, right?
Exactly.
So,
And then
you know,
trying to match up lots and stuff then too, right? Because you shoot, you got 3 firings, 5 firings, whatever you got, and then you lose some and you want to buy some more. Well, it's so expensive. You're trying.
yeah, that's right.
But like I
So
said, for those big
go
bore
ahead.
guys, I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and because when they're using theirs, I mean, it comes out of the rifle and back in the case, basically, right? For how they handle their brass, and kind of same for the guys that are just experimenting in these oddball cartridges. And so I was really trying to steer them towards this 8.6 blackout.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen anything on this, or
I've heard it
if
just
you
about
if you've been following a little bit.
followed it too close. No, it seems like it's kind of the hot thing though.
Yeah, definitely, it's the new whatever popular thing. It got talked about last year, and guys jumped on board even though the components weren't there. And right now, people are having to size 6.5 Creedmoor brass over a few different mandrels to size it up to 8.6, and then trim the necks and everything else. It sounds like quite a pain.
Hmm.
So yeah, having brass for that would be pretty cool. It's kind of a neat cartridge. It was spec'd out with a 1 and 3 twist.
Hmm.
And so the interview that I did with Faxon, we'll talk more about that. So if anyone
Okay.
wants to learn more about the 8.6, they can listen to Faxon, because they were some of the original people that were making barrels for it.
Sure.
Um,
1-3 twist.
but
That's crazy.
yeah, super fast, right? You got to shoot solids pretty much, because you spin your conventional cup and core bullets apart. But if you have a solid that pedals out and you hit something and it's pedals open and you're getting a 1 and 3 twist, it's like shoving the blender through that target.
Spinning very
And
fast.
yeah, so they're getting really good terminal performance. The wound channel is just massive.
Hmm.
Yeah, and you can shoot it subsonic and still get that expansion. That's the other thing. Is generally we rely on velocity to get expansion for
Right.
terminal performance, but because of that centripetal force or centrifugal force, everything expands outward and opens up
Right. That
nicely. And
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, brings the hate when it hits something, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'll know more about that later. I've got a project actually going where I'm doing a integrally suppressed 18-inch barrel in 8.6 blackout. So
Oh, cool.
here in the next like 6 months, I should have some data on that.
Awesome.
Maybe
Yeah,
even
I'll
get
be
to kill
interested to hear
something.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go visit our mutual friend Eric up there in
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
in South
Go shoot.
Dakota. Maybe kill something.
Yeah. Go shoot a bison.
Yeah, exactly. Go harvest a meat buffalo.
Yeah.
So
What else did you see out there? What else?
all right,
What else?
let's see here.
Let's try and hit on stuff that you're not going to be talking about in interviews.
All right. Well, let's see. What else did we see that stopped over at the Z-Comp booth?
Okay.
Okay, so that's Zero Compromise Optics, right?
Yep.
And Jeff Huber is the owner over there, or CEO. I don't know exactly what his official title is, but he's the guy.
Yep.
And
Night Forces guy.
he used to be Night Forces guy. Yep.
Yeah.
And then he was Colossus guy for a while.
Yep.
And then he said, you know what? I've been doing scopes so long, and I'm tired of essentially compromising
Yeah.
in these different areas for production. Like, let's just build superlative scope and then see where the price point falls. And so they've got a new optic out and a new reticle. That's kind of it there, but same quality and everything else. But if you guys wanted something that was a little bit different than what you've already been using from CCOP, you can go check it out. Tangent Theta, I saw them at Range Day. They also have, I believe it's a 7 to 35 out. So previously, they were like 5 to 25 range.
Yep.
And so now they've got a new high mag optic out. And I got to look through that at the 980 yard target or whatever, and was resolving bullet impacts on steel at that 985 at max magnification. Looked really good out there. So, but both of those are really high dollar options. Right?
Yeah. Right. Like the most expensive you can get.
Yeah. So those were good. Let's see, what else did we see out there that was kind of fascinating? Uh, Pistols, couple of new pistols. There's a company called Oracle out that's making a pistol that takes the SIG 320 magazines.
Yeah. Sure.
That's kind of a little bit more 1911-ish though. So it's kind of just a hodgepodge of different pistol designs all put together. And so that was kind of fascinating.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, let's see what else. Did you see anything on social media that
Mm,
that look kind of fascinating?
nothing that I didn't tell you to go check out.
Yeah, no, I tell you, what was there was one company that was up in the pop-up booths. They were only there for 2 days. I didn't make it up there to see those guys. It was sounded very European though. The company.
That I asked you to go look at?
Yeah, started with a V.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to pronounce it. Vorkat?
Okay,
Vorkat?
okay. What
No, they're out
what
of
were those
Wisconsin.
guys making?
No, they're out of Wisconsin. They're making barrels.
Oh, okay. Yes. All right. So no, I did not get to see them, and I'm sorry I didn't, because they were in that vendor area.
Their parent company makes gun drills and stuff like that, deep hole drilling machines. And then they were like,
The machines to do that kind of thing.
yeah. And then they were like, well, why don't we just make barrels too?
We make the machines. If we just had a building and put our machines in that building, we could drill holes in pieces of metal and make barrels.
Right. So that's kind of what they did.
Are they single point cut or
Both.
both at once? Or
No, they offer both.
Either option.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had this moment where I had attained some new knowledge, and I felt very powerful and kind of smart with my new
Yeah.
knowledge. I wanted to go show off to somebody. So I see this cool booth, and then I go down the way a little bit, and I'm talking to it was somebody at Faxon, and I said, "Hey, so what are the ways to put rifling into a barrel, right?" And the three that I'm particularly familiar with, of course, is hammer forge, right, where we take a mandrel or we take a piece of steel and put it around the mandrel, and then they just hammer on it until it takes on the shape of the mandrel, right?
Mhm.
Button rifling, and then single point cut rifling.
Mhm.
And I had spoke with a manufacturer of ECM machines, and I think that's like electrochemical machining, maybe. And essentially, you're putting a diode down into the rifle barrel, and it's removing um, parts of the barrel with
Using lasers,
electrochemicals. So yeah, this ECM is another method of rifling a barrel, and it looked pretty fascinating. So I probably spent half an hour with those guys just talking about the process,
sure.
and was really fascinating. Of course, anytime you're at SHOT Show, you always have to take whatever people are telling you with a grain of salt because it's their booth.
Yeah.
And so they're gonna hype it.
Yeah.
And so this guy was talking about all the benefits, and then I went and talked to somebody else, and they said, "Yeah, but here's some of the negatives." So the gentleman that I was talking to at the faxing booth had already toured the facility for these ECM machines and seen
Oh,
it and decided, "Yeah, I don't think this is quite right for us." Um, and right now, he said that it's still kind of an art form versus just a pure science. And so there's a lot of tuning on whatever it is, your voltage or your amperage on, the electrical side of it, and then also tuning on your pH for the chemical side. And so you have to be really meticulous about running it. And so their thoughts were, you know what, we understand how machine process works. I think we're just going to single point cut.
mhm.
And so Faxon now is button rifling and single point cutting their barrels, but not ECM.
Yeah.
Um,
Kind of a market for ECM, I think, would be. I've heard a little bit about this. A couple of years ago, there were some people experimenting with it, but using really hard materials,
yep,
right?
like Inconel, for example.
Yeah, where you could make a barrel out of something like that that you can't generally cut, right?
That's right. Yeah, and the ECM process works equally well on Inconel as it would aluminum. Like it doesn't really differentiate on the surface hardness of the material.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And yeah, um, the rumor is that maybe SIG is using this process,
Hmm.
and I thought maybe SIG is in particularly using this process with their new, what is it, the 277 Fury
Sure.
cartridge, their 6.8 308 cartridge,
Yep.
which would make sense because they're upping the pressures by having that steel case head on there, and I don't even remember what they're running at, but I bet you it's like 90,000 psi or just something insane, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. I don't remember either. I know it was going to be a real high pressure though.
Yep. And so you can imagine that that would kill your barrels quickly. So maybe they were looking at ways to have harder barrel surface and use different materials. So that could be all something that's happening.
Yeah.
Um, oh, as long as people plug in stuff, I did talk with Daniel Jarek, who I've also been working with Accuracy Solutions,
Hmm.
and the product, the Bipod extension,
Yeah.
Bipod X. And that seems like it's really gaining a lot of traction this year. Actually, I was looking. Who's Chase's wife? Chase Stroud,
Lauren.
Lauren Stroud. She had her rifle up there at the Cadex booth, and both she and Chase use those a lot with their ELR shooting.
They seem real popular in the ELR world. Get
Yeah,
the iPods way out there because they're so big, long, heavy rifles.
yeah. So it's kind of funny, right? Like, why are they so popular in the ELR space? Do you think? Do you think there's
Or
a particular characteristic?
yeah,
Yeah.
well, I think the barrels are so long and the rifles are so heavy. They're trying to keep the balance towards the back of the rifle a little bit more. When you get the
Oh
gun
yeah.
close to you, the barrel's so long and heavy that they want to like move around a bunch. But if you can keep more of that weight in the back, you get a little more solid. That's kind of the
Yeah.
experience I've had. Like I got
But
my 50 back here. I should get it, but I mean, the barrel's this big around, and it weighs.
right,
I bet you just the barrel to action weighs 40 pounds, 35
right,
pounds.
right. So if you have all that weight that's in front of your pivot point, you have a less stable firing platform. So
Exactly.
yeah, okay, that makes good sense.
But
It's funny,
that's where you're talking like they're running big, long, 30 some whatever inch barrels, and then they're truck axles on top of it.
right?
I mean, like you think you got a truck axle with like a straight
Inch and a
taper.
quarter straight taper. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you look at like these 50 barrels. And you know what? I'm just going to grab it quick. And listeners, now that we do the video stuff, just give me 1 second. It's right here. And I'll show you how big it actually is.
We did hear that right. Kirk said he's going to show us how big it is.
So these are, this is just the
What is the OD on that, anyways, Kirk?
things. The whole thing weighs, I mean, it's 35, 40 pounds. And by the time you get it all done, that barrel's like 40 inches long.
What's the outside diameter on that thing? I think it's like inch and three quarter.
Yeah, I'll bet you it's right around there, maybe 2 inches at the
At the shoulder.
it's 2 inches at the shoulder.
Yeah, that thing's massive. Anyway, yeah, so that makes a lot of sense actually, and it's funny because I always talk to Daniel about it, and for him, it was just a pure stabilization thing because he's not an amazing shooter, right? And so when he came up with the whole concept, it was strictly to have a longer lever arm to have less reticle movement. And I'm like, you know what? Those ELR shooters are so bagged up, and the rifles are so heavy that they're not getting a lot of reticle movement, just in breathing or heartbeat or whatever, right? But like you said, it makes sense that they're changing their balance point and keeping their weight in between the feet. So, yeah, talked with Daniel while I was there. Let's see here. Oh, Thunder Beast Arms. Okay, so we're
Oh
talking 50 cals.
yeah.
Did
Yep.
you see the videos or photos of their 50? Yeah, they've got a 50 cal can. It could probably double as a muffler for a motorcycle because the thing is just massive, right? Um, but Zach showed me some videos of them rapid firing this thing, and it looks like it's doing a pretty good job of mitigating recoil with the baffles that they have on the end of the can.
Oh, sure.
And to me, that's fascinating because the the Barrett 50 caliber can does not do a good job of mitigating recoil at all.
Right.
And so I've got a friend that's got I think it's the 98, and we're always deliberating whether or not we want to shoot it with the silencer on there or if we want to shoot it with the brake on there, right? Because okay, do I want to feel the concussion like just in my sinuses, or do I want to feel it in my shoulder? And this, you're going to have to make the choice, right? But that Thunder Beast look like they've got it designed to where it's mitigating quite a bit of the recoil as well as taking
Sure.
out that concussion. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's be kind of the new thing too, right? Is like silencers, suppressors that are also helping to reduce recoil. I mean, they already help reduce recoil, but you're starting to see it where they reduce recoil more, and then also where you're getting less gas blowback. That seems to be kind of the new thing too.
yeah. So less back pressure. Um, Mitigating recoil beyond just the fact that we're adding weight to it. Because I mean, obviously, if you throw an extra 6 pounds or whatever this thing weighs onto your rifle setup, like you could bolt that on in lead weights, and you're going to have less recoil.
Right.
But actually, the porting at the end, I think, is doing a good job kind of managing that. So, yeah, that was definitely another fascinating thing that I was able to see while I was there. Completely unrelated, but I got to talk with a few different clothing companies. So some of my other hobbies involve some backcountry stuff. So being
Right.
able to look at some of the other technical clothing and see what's good on that front. I'm excited for some of the things that are coming out. There should be some good lightweight, high loft, and waterproof clothing, which is kind of like everything you'd ask for at once.
Yeah. Right. And it's nice, and shooting precision rifle matches. I always pack all kinds of stuff. There's no rain in the forecast, but I'm bringing rain gear.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
absolutely.
gonna rain.
Yeah, so I guess that does actually apply to a lot of our guys. Just being out at matches, and how often are you out there and you have some like you said downpour, and you
Well, look.
guys will start busting out their technical clothes, and people
What
have spent just about as much on their technical clothing.
what year was it that the Battle of Breakneck was at like 16 or 17 that they had like 40-mile-an-hour winds and sleet.
Oh, I don't know which year that was. I was thinking you were going to reference your first sniper's hide experience.
Oh, that was just rain though.
Oh, okay, just rain, just a bunch of rain.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it was. We didn't have it as bad as the Battle of Breakneck guys. That's for sure. Or the other one was the Chaz McRanders match. I don't remember if it was the Bighorn or the Thunder Beast at the time, but it was snowing and blowing and cold, and you're pretty
Yeah,
glad
and
first light
was
that
that the
time.
NRL Hunter match?
Nope,
Because
this
there
was
was
before that.
okay. Chaz is there in Nebraska, though, right?
Nebraska, yeah, Eastern
Yeah,
Nebraska.
yeah. So I think they've had a few nasty matches out
They
there
have,
because
yeah, they
they
have,
had the NRL Hunter match out there as well. You know what? I'd be completely remiss if I didn't talk about NDT
yeah.
and
Electronic triggers.
the electronic trigger. Yep, yep, exactly.
We're getting into like the paintball gun world.
Yeah, yeah, kind of so, right?
Well, I mean,
Uh,
the paintball guns used to use electronic triggers.
sure, sure. And that, of course, that was for rate of fire, right? Get
Right,
better rate of fire, and hence the double trigger as well, right? So
right.
you'd be shooting with your trigger finger and then your middle finger. Um, but yeah, so they've got an electric trigger out. I'd say it was extremely divisive.
That's
I talked to some
there's been a
people.
lot of people saying I would never want anything to do with that, and then a lot of people saying sign me up.
Yeah, and I suspect the people that are saying sign me up are looking to shoot smaller groups and more consistently in a very controlled environment. I think for bench rest it'd be fantastic. Um, I
Are there any
think for
rules against electronic triggers though in bench rest?
I don't know. I haven't competed in bench rest, so I
Yeah.
couldn't say what the rule set looks like.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some rules against electronic triggers.
I don't know. And the way that a lot of these rules get written though is it might say you need to mechanically actuate the trigger, which maybe you're still mechanically actuating the trigger by moving it with your finger,
Yeah, you're still pulling
Um,
the trigger. It's
and I
just
know that there's different categories. I think those rail guns they can actually use like a pneumatic
yep.
plunger for the trigger. So I know there's different categories in bench rest. Um, but yes, so the super light trigger pull. I mean, personally,
People
and
are saying there's like no noticeable
creep or
or
post travel or
anything. It just happens.
yep, yep. Um, But like I said, anybody that knows me or has watched any of my YouTube videos or heard me talk about triggers in the past, I'm a two stage fan, and I'm still a huge two stage fan. And the first stage, in my opinion, should be stiff enough to take the smush out of your fingertip. And if you can't actually take that, the play that's in your finger meat out of your finger, then you don't know exactly when you're going to break that shot, right? It's unpredictable. And despite what maybe grandpa told you when you were learning how to shoot, as far as the gun should surprise you when it goes off, the gun should not surprise you when it goes off. Like
Right,
you should know that your crosshairs are right on target and you should say, I want to break the shot now.
right.
And so I'm still a two-stage fan. I don't think I'll be caught running one of the electric triggers.
They're rechargeable though.
Oh, but are they solar powered?
Sure.
uh,
Something happened.
yeah.
No, then what you do? Then what you do, Marcus, is you take them those little things they put over the barrels for mirage mitigation.
hmm
So
You
you
mean like the curtain blind, the Mirage Shield? Yeah.
build a you build a
Oh, build that as solar, run the
make
wire back to
a
your.
solar panel out of that.
I was saying actually what we really need then is to eliminate the fact that we have primers and powder and a projectile that's, has mass. We just need to start shooting like plasma or lasers or something else.
Yeah, I saw
like,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
those triggers.
you
They were saying 800 fire cycles on a charge. That's what they were figuring.
okay. Yeah, it's neat. I think some people are going to use it. I would never want to walk around in the field with a guy that had one of those.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
That was like a big thing, right? Was nobody anybody who was talking about hunting didn't want anything to do with it. Anybody who was talking specifically target shooting with our match rifles that are made for one thing.
yep, and
Yep.
specific rule set, right? Like you will not have a closed bolt until you are on target. So that in that sense, the rifle's inherently safe because it cannot fire with the bolt back. Um, So that's not really a problem, but the problem always lies with the user, right? Like the guns usually don't just go off anyway, and
Hmm.
it's the guy that's using it that's created the problem. So I would say it's definitely opening the door wider for user error,
Yeah,
you know. But it was fascinating. It's new and different. Props to MDT for,
doing
um,
something different,
yep, exactly, and not being afraid just to float it out there and see what people are going to say, if nothing else, right?
right? I mean, there's a lot of
Um,
time and money that goes into coming up with something like that.
yeah, absolutely.
But I'll tell you what, MDT's been pretty good at kind of getting outside of the normal as well, right? Like they're not afraid to kind of crank out something a little goofy and see what happens.
Yeah, and I think
It's worked.
they're actively pushing the market, and they want to be leaders in the precision rifle space. And a lot of times, like if they can't develop it or if it's already been developed, they'll buy the idea. You think about the Skypod
But
or the LRA, the electronic level,
yep.
um, and then also J. Allen Enterprises, right? So
Oh,
they're
that's
going to be
right.
making the J. Allen chassis this year.
They're making those right now again.
That's right. Yeah, they're making them. They're in full production. There's going to be a real thing again.
Yeah, that's going to be neat. You're going to start seeing those again.
Yeah, they are pretty
Crazy when
cool.
they quit making those. People were snatching them up, and
Yeah,
you don't see them though anymore either. You don't. I mean, I haven't seen a Jay Allen in quite a while.
no, I haven't. I saw one on a M1A a while back. Because it was kind of the cool chassis for that
Yeah.
rifle in particular. So yeah, MDT is definitely pushing things forward. They've got their new stocks that are kind of a mix between wood and metal, which I think is kind of nice. I did a review on a Wooks chassis a while back that was like a fine wood over aluminum chassis. But MDT is doing like laminate wood on some of their stocks, so that's kind of cool. Uh, let's see here. There were
It's
a couple
funny.
other
It's funny
things.
to
Go
see
ahead.
the wood coming back.
Yeah, in the right places though, right? Because wood does feel very, I mean, wood feels better than the metal, especially on your cheek or in your hand,
Hmm.
especially when it's cold out. So, you know, but wood definitely has more thermal expansion than aluminum.
Hmm.
And it also absorbs water. So, if you look at those two factors, the aluminum center section for your action itself is really where you want that consistency.
Right. Right.
And the parts that you're feeling with your hands, yeah, make it wood. Um, got up to Magpul. Okay, so as long as we're talking about Magpul and um, vaporware, essentially things that have been talked about at Shot Show and then never came to fruition.
Hmm.
Did you ever see that folding pistol?
Which one?
Okay, so like Magpul had this thing that looked like a lunchbox, but really it was a submachine gun,
Yeah.
and
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yep.
snap it and it folds out, and you got the submachine gun.
Yeah. Like it looked like an MP7 or something, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, way before the MP7 was ever a thing, right?
Hmm.
And so I remember we saw videos of this back in my law enforcement academy, which would have been 20, let's see here, 2008, 2009. So, I mean, Magpul's had this idea in the works for that long, but supposedly this year, for real, they're going to make it.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Huh.
They're not doing it with a buttstock on it because of, all the problems that we've been having around the whole buttstock and short barrel rifle issues through the
Mhm.
ATF. So they're actually putting a device on it that makes it extremely uncomfortable to shoulder. So it's not designed to be shouldered. But yeah, it's kind of a neat design. But since this is Precision Rifle Media, we'll talk about the fact that they're really releasing their new Hunter series as well. So you remember they did the Hunter 700,
Yep.
and then they made a Ruger American version of that.
Yep.
So
And the 1022s stocks.
yep, yep, yep. So it's all very similar ergonomics, right? But they're re-releasing that, and it's designed to be significantly lighter because they said we kind of messed up by having it as heavy as we did for people that are actually going to be carrying these things through the woods. So they have a lighter hunter lineup now, and I think maybe the first inlet offering that they've got for it is the Savage Axis.
Oh
So
wow,
they're
that's
they're
impressive.
really, yeah, exactly. But they're trying to hit the budget price points, right?
So the coolest thing about the Magpul stocks that I see is the fact that I can walk into Shields and buy one.
Absolutely. I
Right?
mean,
Because
that's
you
what
can't.
Magpul has going for them as
Yeah,
a
because
company.
where else can you walk in and buy it's like a stock or a chassis. Like you can't walk in. You walk into Shields, they want to sell you a gun. You can't just go look at stocks or chassis for whatever it
Right.
is that you want. But Magpul's there, and they've got their thing. And if you know, and if people start buying that, they'll maybe see the market for it. Maybe we'll start seeing
Have
other.
you seen the 700 Pro chassis in Shields? Out of curiosity, they're like the $1,000 chassis or
Mm,
$800
no,
chassis. That the really nice one that Magpul's got.
yeah, no. I think I usually just see the hunter stock, and it's
Okay.
usually, and it's honestly, it's usually for the 22s that you see them.
Hmm.
But still,
But yeah, and there's also a whole row of Magpul stuff there, right?
yeah, yeah. There's like
Uh,
a whole aisle dedicated to Magpul stuff.
yep, yep. So add to that aisle a case as well now.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
Yep.
What do you think of
And
that? Do you think it's gonna
okay.
things decent? Because it looked like pretty hard plastic inserts. Let's hit on
Ye-
this, and then we'll cover. We'll just go over a couple of the stuff you interviewed, and then
All
we're gonna
right.
up on
Sounds
it
good.
here.
All right, so the case itself uh, doesn't seem too particularly special. It looks like a Pelican Vault essentially,
Yep.
but the thing that's a little bit more unique is their insert system, right? And making
Yep.
it extremely modular. I like it because I have never once cut foam and stepped back from that project and been like, oh yeah, I'm the boss. Like that turned out
Yeah. Oh,
exactly
right.
how I
Good.
wanted
Good
it to.
here. Yeah.
You know, I always call it like a 5 foot cut job or whatever. So you stand it back at 5 feet and it looks pretty decent. But
Yeah.
anytime you do it for yourself, you go and look at it and you're like, I feathered it a little bit here or whatever, and it didn't turn out perfect. So I do like the fact that their insert system is very modular, so you could set up for one rifle and then set it up for a different rifle later, and it doesn't look janky. Like when you look at it, it it's clean.
That pluck and pull gets weird too.
Yeah, yeah, the little squares.
Yeah, yeah, because then the squares like start falling out around the edges, and then it's opened up bigger than you want it to be, and then
Yep. Yeah, and I strongly believe, and this is in conversation with the Magpul guy as well, but that they design products that they want to use, and so they have people on staff that enjoy going out and shooting these events and things like that, and then they make the stuff that they want to use. Like if you look at their knife that they released, and their clothing line and stuff like that, they've been in and out of clothing for quite a while, and I think quite often it's enough people on staff that are like, oh yeah, I would wear pants like that, and then they make a run, and then they don't support it afterwards, but they've got what they wanted.
right, right.
Yeah. So yeah, that was Magpul. And then yeah, if you want to just wrap up, we'll talk about the other actions really quick. um,
Quick teasers, and then
yeah, quick teasers. Okay, so Faxon's been doing large military contracts for a long time. They've been gun drilling for a long time. The actual parent company was like called something Deep Hole Drilling. So kind of like your other barrel manufacturer that you were talking about, they have
yeah,
experience in that field. So they decided they were going to make a bolt action, and instead of ECM cutting or broach cutting the raceways with a bolt head that's like a Remington 700, where the lugs are larger than the bolt body,
mhm.
they used what's called a fat bolt design. And you've seen this in other rifles probably. Maybe Weatherby would be an example where the bolt body is the same
Sequence
diameter
that
as the bolt
too.
lugs. Yep, Seekins would be another good example. Oh man, if we have like a couple more minutes, I should talk about Seekins. But
Yeah, yeah. Let's
um,
do it. Let's just hit
okay,
this quick, and then
all right. So, anyways, they are drilling and making a fat body bolt. That thing ran extremely smooth. I'm very interested to see where that goes. And they consulted with some people like Jim C and Short Action Customs, Mark Gordon. So they got some really good input when they were designing it. Also going to be under $1,000, and they'll probably also offer just barreled actions because they make barrels and actions. And then American Rifle Company. And anybody that has heard my interviews with Ted or seen Ted on YouTube knows that he's kind of like a mad scientist.
yeah,
He's a really colorful guy. Um, he's proud of his products, but with good reason, because he usually introduces something that is a little bit outside the norm and unique designs, and he's done that again. So essentially, he has taken his Archimedes design and streamlined it,
sure.
and
Yeah,
he's offering it.
I broke an extractor that cost me a whole first stage because of his extractor designs.
Really?
Yeah, because I was like, well, he took a bolt out and put a cartridge in it, and then
I remember this story.
yeah, and I was like, wow, mine could do that. So I went out there and then I did it, and I was like, see, I ain't so cool. And then I went to go
Right.
shoot a match in the first the first round I shot.
So to put
I
this
bent the
whole thing in
extractor.
yeah, exactly. To put the whole thing in perspective, the extractor did not get broken in use, like inside the rifle.
No, no, it did not. No,
Okay,
I broke it. No, I bent it and then I bent it back and then
thought it
I
was going to be fine.
and then I talked to Travis Stevens at TS Customs to bring me a bolt uh, an extractor down, and he grabbed me a Magnum extractor on accident. Grabbed the wrong pile on his way out because I was like, he's like,
Right.
"Oh, just leave the shop. I'll grab it as I go." And then I just threw it in, and I didn't try to cycle anything because I was like in the hotel room, and I didn't want to like load the rifle in the hotel room. And then when I shot the first round, I shot it. It was like a coyote at like 900 yards, and I drilled it, like center punched it, and then couldn't extract.
I think you had an interview with Scarface Wheeler right after this event happened. I think that was that same match that you guys went to together.
Nope, nope. That was the
Oh,
South Dakota State
okay.
Classic that he came to, and then this one was the Chaz's first match down there in
And
Nebraska.
what action were you running at the time?
Lone Peak Arms.
Okay, so actually you broke your Lone Peak arms because you saw Ted do a demo with his extractor.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay, whole story now. I remember this now. Okay,
All right.
but
So
those
that's Seekins.
Lone Peak arms is good as well.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no, they're super solid.
yeah,
Nothing
we're
wrong.
not talking trash. Just don't bend your extractor outside of the rifle.
Yeah, yeah.
Seekins,
I bent it out and I bent a cartridge in half on a workbench, and I might have used a hammer at one time. So either way,
yeah, yeah, Seekins, super cool. If you haven't seen their hit rifle, you should check it out. That was came out last year, but it's a really neat complete rifle package. So chassis, action, and all that. It's really nice. But they have a new scope system, and the cool thing about their new scope mount for the rifles is the fact that they use two opposing wedges and screw those wedges in against each other to fill the gap or the slot between a Picatinny rail. So most people would know if you put your Picatinny one-piece scope mount on top, you can slide it forward and backward. And best practices is to slide it forward and then tighten everything down, right? So we've
that
taken
way
that
the
slot
recoil
out.
drives the rifle. Yeah.
Yep, yep. But guess what? It still could get bumped and slide backwards and then work its way back forward and so on. Well, what this does is these two wedges actually expand and interface with the front and the back of that particular Picatinny slot, and then the thing's locked in there. So yeah, he did that, which is cool, and has some other like integrated bubble level to it that actually has a zeroing feature to the bubble level. Instead
Oh,
of just coming out the side of the one piece mount, you can actually calibrate it. So
that
yeah,
makes
so you
life
can
easier for setting your bubble up when because you tighten it a little bit, and then the bubble's off,
yeah.
and then you.
Or sometimes it's just integrated into the mount, and maybe
It's
you're one of those guys that doesn't like to run everything level, level, level. You want a little bit of cant in your rifle and have your reticle straight up and down, right?
yep,
Tubb talks about that plenty,
yep.
David Tubb. And so, yeah, it allows you to do that and still zero out your bubble level.
Yeah, that's super
So,
cool.
yep. So that was cool. So yeah, check out the additional interviews that we've got. Hopefully, they just get posted up as like Shot 2023. Um, Audio quality should be pretty good. We used the intercom system, so it should have cut out most of the background noise. It will sound like we're coming from the flight deck though. Um, but yeah, so we interviewed Aero Precision, we interviewed Faxon, Ted from American Rifle Company, Snowy Mountain Rifles, and there might be another one mixed in there.
Awesome, awesome. So where can we find more from you? Oh, I know, precisionriflemedia.com.
Oh yeah, because I'll be on there for sure. And then if anybody wants to talk about rifle packages, hit me up. That's www.onlyshooters.com. And yeah, trainings. I travel up to South Dakota and do those trainings with Eric on a regular basis. But
Yep.
I'm always happy to do like small group trainings. I'm not Mr. High Speed. Obviously, I'm kind of like a upper third, basically, right on the cut between the middle and upper third of the pack. Anytime I shoot these matches, so I'm not Jake Vibert or Phil Vallejo or whoever,
Right.
but I can definitely help the average Joe get from zero to hero when it comes to long range shooting.
Perfect. Yeah, and then you're also on our Facebook page, so some of the posts you see can come from Marcus too.
That's right. Yep. So yeah, look for that. I will tell you, Arctis. I talked to these guys. I'm wearing their hat today because I was really excited about what they're doing. They're a European company. They're out of the UK and they're making clothing, and they're going to have a US distributorship, and a lot of their stuff is pretty durable, top notch stuff. So
Nice.
let me just give a shout out to those guys real quick.
Yeah, boom, there it is.
There you are.
Cool. So with that, I think that's going to wrap up this week's show. So everybody, I appreciate you listening. I hope you enjoyed this show, and don't forget to check out the supplemental stuff to come. That everybody, take care. Try to get to the range, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye bye.